Welcome everyone. It's Friday and it's Feedback Friday. So, hope you're all doing good. Welcome. You know the deal. If you want feedback, go to the Discord. Instructions are in the chat right now. Live stream feedback channel. And submit your track there. Read the little pinned message so that you know what to do. And let's get into it for tonight. So let's do that. Hello. Welcome. Hope you're doing great. My food is getting better. So, what's up, everybody? Yeah, what's up? I'm good. I can walk relatively normal again. Still not completely gone, but it's getting better. I can walk relatively normal. Only issue is when I move my little toe outward, it still hurts, but other than that, it's fine. I kicked the coffee table. Note to self, don't do that. My ears have actually been doing great. I haven't had much issues lately, so knock on wood. Hope that stays that way. Actually, I had not drank anything. It was just like, it was late at night, and I was like, let me go grab something to drink from the kitchen. And the light was off. And, you know, I do this so many times. I just walk past the table and I just go to the kitchen, right? And grab a drink. Well, this time I just didn't calculate properly where the table would be. And so I kicked it. And that's how I broke my foot. But we're good. It's like what? How many weeks ago is it now? 3.5? Something like that. So it's getting better. Ouch. That sounds that sounds like a horrible night. How bad did you split your head open? Was it like stitches bad or? No, I didn't kick it again out of anger. I basically just started throwing swear words really loud into the air. I think my neighbors might have woken up because of it, but it pissed me off though, that's for sure. Maybe we should turn the lights on. Yeah, exactly. You know, it is what it is. I haven't learned from it either though, because I got myself earlier this week doing the same thing again, just walking to the kitchen without the light on, but you know. So, we got feedback today. There's probably gonna be tunes coming in during the stream. I've got a bunch already. I can already see that some people didn't read the message, but I don't know what to tell you. There's some who did, clearly, but others who didn't. Please, if you send me your tracks, name them properly so I can, so I know whose track it is, and preferably the key or the BPM would be nice, but at least the artist name would be great, because I now got a couple of ones in here that are literally, I mean, one is called ID. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? It's fine though, it's fine. Headache, it'll pass though. Yeah, I need to call my dentist again next week. I was brushing my teeth last night and I was like, damn it, god damn it, I saw it. I have a fucking cavity again, so I need to go and call the dentist and pay a dentist visit. It's time for my 6 month checkup anyway, so can probably schedule that all at once. But still, I fucking hate the dentist. But I guess that's a pretty common thing. I don't think I'm gonna be alone with that one. So, we actually got an Angel Eye track as the first one. Most of the time we yeah, I tend to postpone the dentist for so long. I'll just be like, oh god damn it, I need to call, and then I'll be like, ah, I can call next week, and then the week after, oh, I can call the week after. The pay is very accurate. Yeah, exactly. That's also the thing that I most of the time don't look forward to. Like I saw that I had to do my checkup, and I was like, ah, damn it, because I already like the insurance here is that when you go to the dentist, you have your insurance, and they will pay they basically they will pay the dentist visit, and you get like, depending on your insurance, you get like 250, 350, or something like that euros a year that they will pay for you. But I've already had something earlier in the year, so I'm already past that amount. So I was like, ah, I need to go for my checkup. Um, I'll just wait 2 more months until it's next year, you know. But then I saw that I had a cavity, so I was like, fuck, now I need to go call them. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go pay again. They always seem to discover an issue. Well, that's the thing as well. Yeah, you go and you're like, yeah, so I have this one spot that needs to get fixed, and then they'll check, and then they'll be like, yeah, so we're gonna fix that spot, and we'll also do that and that and that, and I'm like, yeah, of course you do. Fuck's sake, it's always the same. And if it was like like if these things were affordable, okay, you know, but like, holy shit, these materials, mate, they're so fucking expensive. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I usually don't look forward to that either. Luckily, you know, insurance is fine, and I'll usually just do like, yo, let me just pay half this month and the other half next month, because otherwise I'm gonna have to, you know, pay like a shit ton of money at once. And I'm like, please no. But it's still annoying. I don't get why they don't just, well, I kind of get it, I guess. Um, money, you know, but it would be better if it would be just like our health insurance, which is kind of the opposite way. It's so strange. Like, our health insurance is the way where you go to the hospital for whatever reason, and then your insurance pays most of it, and then you'll only have like a set amount of euros a year that you will have to pay yourself, and everything above that is going to be covered by your insurance. But with dentists, it's the other way around. So they will cover just a couple of €100, and then everything above that you have to cover yourself. It's such a fucking scammy fucking thing. Just make it the same, you know. But yeah, of course, that would cost insurance companies more money. So I guess why it's not, that's why it's not that way. Because, you know, not everybody needs a hospital visit every year, but everybody needs the dentist every year, you know. Anyways, we got an Angel Eye track as the first one. So let's see what Angel Eye's been cooking up. Let's get into the feedback. We no more tracks at this point, so okay, let's start. Let me bring up that looks like the dentists live in a different universe. I don't know. Mine is actually 10 minutes away, so uh, would be a pretty close distance to that new universe. Oh, my bad. We're still on the wrong thing. Okay, let's see what we have. This is by Angelite. Yeah, again, amazing work. I really like the piano actually, and the chord progression in this. Chord progression is really nice. One thing I wish it did here at the end though is like listen to how you have that end, right? I think it would be really cool if you have like one final sort of like swell until the part where it just stops and cuts off and fades out. So you get what I mean, right? Where you just build one final bit of well, not tension, but just raise the volume of some elements a little bit so that it sort of like builds up towards the end. I think that would be cool. Right there at the end. Maybe have like some instrument or something coming in, fading in, doing a swell, or a couple of instruments. But other than that, it's super nice. I hear a subtle reason, maybe a second high layer. Well, there is a reason there. As the bass. But yeah, I really like this section here. It is very subtle, yeah, but it doesn't need to be very, very powerful and in your face for this kind of stuff. Yeah, this part is nice. Like that section just makes me feel like I'm playing like some really epic video game or something, and I'm walking into a big vast open world, and it's like, you know, you're just looking at the landscape. I love the subtle vocal. Vocal? Oh yeah. If it is a vocal at least. I don't know if it is. Yeah, I get what you mean though. A really nice chord progression though. That's really nice. Yeah, it's 140 or 70 in this case. But that's a really nice one again. Really like this one. Not much to say about it other than that it's just really good. But yeah, I kind of just really wish that it did like a little swell at the end before it goes into that tiny little fade out section here. Like right here. So that fade out would sort of like feel more, I guess, impactful, you know? Cool. Next one. Shard by... See, this is why I would like to have the... Somebody is mentioning me on Discord. Oh, okay. This is why I would like to have the artist name in the title, because now I need to go to Discord and check. Oh, it's what? What do you want to be called? Maltese Falcon or Tofu? I guess Maltese Falcon. Yeah, it's fine. Just try and remember for next time. So you said you send in some ambient music, right? We're starting quite atmospheric today, which is nice for a change. Normally we just go straight in with the drum and bass, but this time we start a little bit more mellow, which I like. I can already see a thing that I would try and fix. You see this little, look at this area right here on the frequency analyzer. Like it's absolutely so high pitched that most people won't even hear it. Look at that. See that? Just put a little low pass on there so that it doesn't have that. Or you might have people's dogs or cats go crazy. That outro part doesn't really do much for me, honestly. The one thing I don't necessarily think the wow and flutter is too much. I think the main issue I have with this is that because you're going for that really lo-fi kind of sound, or you've used some kind of plugin to make it sound like that, a lot of the information is sort of like situated around the lower end of the frequency spectrum. but there isn't a whole lot going on in the high end. There's a couple of moments when there's a bit of stuff coming up, and of course there's that peak at like what, B9 or something like that. But other than that, there isn't really a lot going on in the high end. And I think, well, for me at least, I think it sounds too cluttered in this area because of it. Because there's nothing to contrast it in the high frequencies. So, like here, well, of course, the part where I just played it, it has some high end, but see how everything is in this area? And there's very little here. But even just boosting that already makes it sound kind of more interesting, because there is something there. Now, obviously, it's just noise, but it would be nice if there was, like, some kind of a texture or something in the high end, just to give it some interest there. And I would probably, as well, tame this area a little bit. And then find some texture for here. And I'm not sure if I would just EQ this. It sounds more like something, like every once in a while some of the piano notes are pretty resonant in this area. So maybe a bit of dynamic EQ could work. Like... the response to the incoming audio. But you don't want to do too much, because then it starts to sound weird as well. So, but the main thing I have is that it feels a lot like everything is on the left side of the frequency analyzer, and that kind of makes it sound a bit cluttered in this area. But that is also because there is not too much happening above it, and that is probably a result from the VHS kind of effect that you're using, because that tends to do that. So maybe either tone that down a bit, or, you know, you can also combine like stuff that sounds more lo-fi with stuff that doesn't necessarily sound too lo-fi, because if you have like some high-end texture and you run it through the same sort of like processing, it's gonna decrease the high end a lot. So like the main thing that you want to have sounding lo-fi in this most likely is just a piano thing, right? That gives it that kind of sound that you're going for. Just in general feels like the mix could be slightly different. Kind of a lot of stuff happening here as well in the low end. Or at least, like the bass itself is fine, but then there's a very loud harmonic around, let's say, an octave above the sub, that tends to make it quite muddy, like right around here. And depending on the note, that is going to change, of course, where it is, but maybe a bit much there as well. But yeah, mainly I would add something here, and not just plain old noise, but like something textural. I can hear there's a little bit of vinyl crackle happening there, but I would maybe try something more interesting. You know, vinyl crackle is fine, but it's also kind of overused. You know, it's just whatever. I would try and look for something a little bit more interesting there to fill that high end up. And yeah, maybe tone down the VHS effect just ever so slightly, because it does tend to, really sort of like narrow down the mix into like this area. So like the mid area of the frequency spectrum. And that kind of, well, it's not my favorite type of sound, honestly. Like I listen to quite a bit of ambient, but I do like it when there's a more like full frequency spectrum thing happening. Yo, hello, Infernal Media. And yo, Angelite, you're back. Did you catch the feedback, or were you not here? I mean, it was pretty good though, but you can rewatch it anyway. It's fine. I just had like one little comment on it, really.
Arcturus donated 10 euro. Long time follower but never interacted. Or go to you live. Your world electro house videos helped me. Aton. Cheers M8. Thanks for the content.
Thanks, Arcturus, for the 10 euros. Why have I never seen you in the chat though? Ah, there you go. Hello, welcome. I was like, interesting. Donation from somebody who I've not seen in chat. It's great though. Thanks for the 10 euros. And I'm glad you like the content. I'm actually I've been making a list of videos that I want to make. I think the first upcoming videos that I'm gonna be doing is I want to do an update to the drum design sort of like series that I've been doing. The deep dive into drum design. I think I'm gonna do an update because we now have Serum 2, right? And there's just a lot more that's possible within Serum, with just the synthesis part. And I've been messing around a bit and found a couple of really cool things for both kick drums and snare drums. So I think I'm gonna do an update to that series and do an updated video for, well, maybe for both of them in one video, or maybe we'll do another 2 videos, depending on how long they're gonna be, of course. And then I want to have some more ideas for videos. I have a couple more, but I want to do a couple more videos again. So if anybody has some requests or ideas, then you can just let me know, and I'll add them to the list. I don't know where my phone is. Oh, it's there. Let me check. I was keeping a list in my phone while I was at work because I suddenly got like a bunch of ideas, and I was like, oh, let me put those in my phone. What else did I have? Oh yeah, of course. I did the whole generative piano thing in like, what was it, last stream? Or was it the stream before that? I don't know. I made like this generative piano thing, right? And I've been doing some more playing around with it, and I actually was able to make some pretty cool things with it. And it is actually kind of an interesting technique for when you want to make your own custom samples to, put into like, I don't know, a granular plugin, or chop them up and rearrange them without really much effort other than just using some of the MIDI effects in Ableton. And I figured that might probably be a subject for a video as well, because I don't see too many of those things being used. But what about hi-hats video? Yeah, I mean, maybe. I guess I kind of covered that as well in the Addictive Drums one, which was the third one in that series. But I guess we can do one about hi-hats and cymbals, maybe, rides, stuff like that. That could be one. making hi-hats and cymbals. Serum 2. Because, I mean, yeah, I do have some ideas for that as well. I guess I should, you know? Given that I've been doing other ones in that series about kicks and snares, but didn't really do anything about hi-hats. I feel like the hi-hats by itself would be a bit of a short video though, because it's pretty easy. But if I combine it maybe with like rides and symbol things, then yeah, I could probably do a video. Okay. Next one, we got Future, again by somebody who didn't name his file properly. Let's see who it is. Prozac. Yeah, you know, I sometimes lose track of what I say as well. It is what it is. But it could, especially now with Serum 2, I do have some ideas of, well, some cool ideas for like, I guess, symbols and stuff like that. And I guess you can combine it with hi-hats as well. But I really want to update the kick and snare one because, you know, there's just some cool things you can do now that weren't possible in Serum 1. That have kind of changed how I do them as well. So, makes sense to do a little update for that. Video making cowbell. Okay, let's see what we got here. Is this the first drum and bass track? Sounds like it. Tempo-wise. Sorry guys. Incubate says, about to switch to Ableton, is it worth just going straight for the suit version since you can rent to own? I mean, kind of depends on what you can spend. You know, like I guess with the rent to own it's kind of doable, but I would say yes, the suit version is always the way to go. Because you just get the most amount of content, the most content with it. Is it still the case that I don't like? I've been using Suit for so long, I don't even know what the differences. I believe there was like a couple of instruments as well that you don't get in the, what is it, standard version? Was it operator? Great, Ableton. Just says software instruments, standard version 13, suit 20. Yeah, which ones? Wasn't it that operator was not included in standard or something like that? Which, you know, is kind of, operator's kind of goated. Operator and analog wavetable one. I think it's the wavetable one. Okay, I think it used to be the case that you didn't get operator with standard, but maybe now that they've made like a bunch of new instruments, maybe they've changed that. But yeah, I still think suit is the way to go. And if you can afford it, you know, with the rent to own, then why not, I guess. Like, it's not that big of a deal though, because you can always upgrade, but still. Is the stem extraction now live? No, not yet. Ableton has been teasing us for like 2.5 months or something now. That live 12.3 is coming, but all I'm seeing is them just teasing us with video posts on their socials and not releasing the update yet. So, well, the beta is out, but edging us. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, please give us the update. I want the stem extraction and like the main thing I want is the bouncing of groups. That's gonna be such a game changer because it makes things a lot easier. Group freeze is not there, but you will be able to bounce a whole group to audio in the next update. UVR is very useful. Yeah, that's mostly what I would use at this point as well. Is just use UVR. It works pretty well. Kind of depends on the model that you're using as well. Kind of depends. Like if there's a couple of models that I tend to use. If I just need a vocal from something, then I'll usually use the Kim's vocal one. That one tends to work pretty well. But then, if you want different stems, then you cannot use that one because it only splits instrumental and vocal. Yeah, I know. There's a great one that removes reverb. Yeah, it can remove reverb and delay, I believe. And then there's another one as well that works on like vocal stacks. That, well, I haven't tested it out, but it's supposed to sort of like do vocals and backing vocals or something, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, honestly, I'm mostly just looking for the group bounce thing because we have the bounce track in place now, but I want the group bounce in place because that's gonna make things a lot easier. Yo, Prozac, good timing because we're literally getting to your track, but we got a question about Ableton, so I cut it midway through the intro to answer a question. Why do they make new synths instead of updating the legendary ones that we all use already? Yeah, I do think that we will see an upgrade to Operator at some point because they've been slowly sort of like updating some of the effects and instruments mostly new things, but they've also been so like slowly updating some of the effects with like new interfaces with more things, like autofilter got an update with like the what was it? So like the different modes here with the comb filter and the resampling filter, and they just updated the interface of it, which is kind of nice. They added this Wonder LFO, that's kind of cool, and then you have this offset thing between the left and right channel, which is kind of nice. So they've been updating like different devices and like that, and AutoPen has been getting an update. Or was it? I thought they'd updated AutoPen as well. Or is that in the coming update? That might be the coming update, actually. I forgot which other ones. They did a couple of other ones as well. And the one thing I do like about that they added is that they made the new granulator. The new granulator is pretty nice, actually. I kind of ditched it quickly in one of the previous streams, but I looked on a video on it, and it's actually pretty good. Like with the cloud option, and then you get like for like the grain size, I believe. Yeah, you get this density, so you can make like really dense clouds of grains, which is nice. Might actually be just as good as some of the granular synths that I would use, so. Angelight, long story short, it was great. Chord progression was good. I just wish that there was a tiny little swell at the end here before the fade out, where it just build up again and then stops. Other than that, it was mostly just positive feedback. But you probably expected that at this point. You can go check it back though. Stream will be on the channel like usual. Let's get into Prozac track. Oh, you need to have loop in game. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. What is it with tracks being so short these days? Nah, it's good though. Like I usually don't really listen to this kind of drum and bass, but I kind of still like this one. The only thing I really, well, I'm not a big fan of is the snare drum. But I tend to not really like those really low snares. I tend to like the more higher pitch snares. So that is also kind of just a, just a personal preference. Aren't the sides a bit too narrow, or is it just me? I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. Yeah, I usually am not a big fan of these snares that sit around the 200 hertz kind of area. I usually my snares will usually go from like what 350 and up. But yeah, that's really a personal preference. I just tend to. I know that this kind of snare drum sound is definitely something that you'll hear a lot more in this subgenre of drum and bass. So kind of makes sense because I don't really listen to this kind of subgenre a lot. It would fit on UKF, yeah. Like, I would even say maybe in some areas like that. Like, I guess right here. I mean, here you kind of have the kick drum built kind of thing. But like in areas like this, I would even say like maybe, you know, like some breaks chopped up or something could be cool, and then filter them so that they kind of give that transition a little bit more interest. Right now it's just, it works, but it kind of fades out and then goes into that impact. I would maybe just, you know, I guess I get why I did it this way though, because it works. It just doesn't really make it special for me, if you get what I mean. And to really differentiate yourself from like other people doing this kind of drum and bass, I would try and, you know, put some little spice in there, something that makes it different from what is, I guess, normal in this kind of subgenre of drum and bass, just to make it feel a bit more interesting. But that is probably maybe also because I don't listen to this kind of drum and bass a lot, and if people that make this kind of drum and bass put in like those little things that maybe go a little bit away from what this subgenre of drum and bass normally does, then that makes me more interested, right? But like as a track, it works well. Maybe that kick build there comes a little bit out of nowhere. I would maybe introduce it a little bit earlier and then just fade it in a bit so that it doesn't come out of nowhere right here. Where is it? There. Maybe even just do some volume automation on that throughout this section, just so it starts a little bit quieter, because it does kind of come out of nowhere suddenly. I do appreciate that the second drop is different from the first one, because I have definitely heard a lot of these kind of tracks where the drop is literally just a copy paste, and I'm happy that you didn't do that, because the first drop had a bit more of a rhythmic feel. And then this one is a bit more sustained, so that's nice. I feel like in this area though, the snare drum does tend to get a little bit more buried in the mix, which makes sense because on the first drop there is like a gap in the bass on the snare, and here there is not. So maybe you want to do a little bit of a heavier sidechain here, or just in general, to make space for that, because it does feel like you can still hear it obviously, but it does sort of like lose a bit of punch because it's playing together with the bass. Other than that, mixed balance sounds fine though. Like, sounds pretty good. Good timing, YouTube. Guys, quickly. Let's say some stuff about this track. Yeah, I think other than that, not really a lot of else to comment on. I hope your ads are done. By the way, it's not me triggering the ads. That's literally YouTube doing that. So don't blame me. How much of the feedback did you miss? We literally just had a whole discussion about your tune, by the way. No, we didn't. Before you start going crazy. No, we didn't. We mostly just played your track when you were saying that you had ads. Did you catch the part about the snare drum in the second drop that I told you? You'll rewatch the stream on the second drop? Okay, it's fine. Like, and the stream will be up on my channel as well after the stream anyway, so you can always check it back. Nope. Okay, well, we can just go do that real quick once again. With the second drop, it feels like the snare is getting a little buried in the mix. So maybe sidechain a little bit heavier there. Like I said in the first drop, it kind of, you don't have it as much because there is a gap in the bass happening on the snare. But in the second drop, you don't because the bass is more sustained. And on that section, it feels like the snare gets a little bit lost in the mix. Well, not lost in the mix because the snare it's still pretty much audible, but it sounds less punchy because it has less bass in the mix. So you might want to sidechain heavier on that section or just in general to make up for that. But, you know, otherwise the mix is pretty good. So now we got a tune by ID. Who's that? Aha. Okay. I'm not sure if you want your name to be told. So I'm just gonna say ID, okay? Because I don't know why the artist name would be ID. That's me. Okay. Cool. By the way, let me grab a drink. Oh yeah, I got myself one. We got new tracks already? I guess we do, but I'll get to those when we've worked through these ones. I'll grab the other tracks when we get there. I've heard so many tracks by this artist named ID. And they actually have multiple tracks called ID as well. I don't know why they do that. Almost every live set you see on YouTube, there's a track by him called ID. But it's a different track every time. I don't get it. Nice start. Nice ambience. Going a bit darker with this one. Little dissonant synth. We've definitely kicked up a notch in loudness with this one, compared to the previous tunes. Yeah, that section was a little bit strange, in my opinion. I might be nitpicky here, but like I already felt like this one came a little bit strangely out of nowhere, that gap, but this one feels even weirder. I'm not sure if I would go for that, honestly. That one works. Feels a little off, that one. It's loud though, that's for sure. I think you could maybe tone the loudness down a tiny little bit, but it sounds louder than it actually is. Actually, it's like roughly around like what -5, -4 LUFS. Definitely sounds like it could be higher than that, but it isn't. It's still okay. The one thing I kind of wish you did more is I wish you played around more with that sort of like dissonant synth sound, that synth step, and make like a bit more of a rhythmic kind of pattern with it that is a little bit more interesting than the ta ta thing that you're using. Maybe for like the second drop or something, and go with a slightly bit more of a busier pattern, and then use it a little bit more as an ARP in a way. Maybe not like the whole way through, but something that comes in every once in a while that just makes it more interesting than the pattern that you already established in the first half of the tune. I do wonder what it sounds like in mono. Let's listen. Because there is a lot of side information. In the drop, at least, I saw. Interesting. Yeah, so it's really just a high end in the sides. That's good though. That's fine. Yeah, like I wish you did something more interesting with that sort of like synth step in the second drop. I think that would be a pretty cool thing to do actually, and maybe make it a little bit more interesting. Like it's a nice sound to use in like a little, maybe a little different pattern, you know, where with a couple more notes. So it's not just a ta ta, but like a little bit more of an interesting sort of like ARP run or something where it uses a couple of different notes and makes it sound even more menacing, you know? Could work pretty well, I think. I like the kick and snare. Yeah, I like the kick and snare too. Come through the mix well, so really good. Out of curiosity, how long would you normally spend on a track this heavy? I guess, yeah, that completely depends on the person, right? And by the way, Inferno Media, even Mephius dare not go that far. Yeah, he totally does. There are tracks by Mephius that are louder than this. But you know, loudness being really loud can work if the mix is made for it, you know? Like, it kind of depends what kind of tune it is as well. Like, if it's a tune with a more rhythmic kind of element where there's like bits of silence in the drop, then you're never gonna hit the same sort of like loudness as with a track that has a really big sustained bass, for instance. So, you know, there's tracks that he did with like a really long sustained bass that are basically just hitting 0 decibels the entire time. And the track will be hitting like -3 LUFS, easy. And it will still sound good. But it's because the track is also written to be that loud, if you get what I mean. But yeah, I think just to kind of change it up in the second drop, try out something with that detuned or detuned synth step kind of thing, and maybe do a different pattern just to kind of keep it interesting. I did, yeah. Inferno Media. That's actually something I tend to sometimes do as well. If you want to know what is wrong with your mix, just push the fucking loudness. Just make it really loud, and you'll hear, like, especially with this kind of music, you'll hear where the problems in your mix are when you push it loud. Like, usually when the drums are peaking above everything else, that's just fine. But when the bass or element starts hitting the limiter or clipper, whatever you're using, you'll start hearing which elements are the ones that are causing the issue when you push it. And you will notice that really quickly when you make something really loud. So, yeah, that's definitely something that's good to do. I'm still struggling achieving this kind of loudness all the time without sizzling. Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say go for this loudness, you know? It's not necessarily important that your track is really loud. I mean, not anymore, like it used to be the case back in the day, but Not anymore. To a degree, it still matters. You know, like if your track is going to be played in a club or something, it still matters. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is the songwriting itself. You know, making an interesting song. That is the most important thing. Um, but yeah, if you want to get a really loud track, then most of the time you want to make it loud from the beginning, so you can, aim for that sort of like level. And then, like I said, with like a limiter or a clipper on the master engine, pushing it to hear where the problems are. That is the one thing that definitely happens though, is when you push something really loud, is the high end tends to quickly become very harsh and very ear piercing. So this area here, usually around like, what is this, 1K, 2K, and up to like 4K, that's an area that can get really annoying really quickly, right here. And then of course the stuff really at the top right here. That is an area where you definitely want to pay a lot of attention to. And sometimes those areas can be a lot quieter than you actually think, because due to the limiting or clipping that you'll do on the master, it will bring those back up anyway. So if you have those areas, like these areas here, too loud to begin with, making your track louder is only going to make it sound worse, because those areas are just going to be really ear piercing and it's just going to be really tiring to listen to. Whereas on this one, it's not that bad. Actually, it's actually relatively good. I was checking what happened if I brought this area down a bit, but it actually made it sound dull. So, that's a good indication that it's sort of like in a relatively okay spot. Did we play a deco track yet? No, we didn't. Oh yeah, totally Inferno Media. Like if you want to have a really loud track, then yes, definitely less is more. 100%. Like Hakari is saying, talking about Burr Oak, but when you listen to a track by Burr Oak, they're actually pretty simple in terms of the arrangement and like the amount of sounds being used at once. Especially with the ones where he used like the really big sustained basses with like, usually I do like those tracks where there's a big sustained bass that has like a harmonic layer on top. But other than that, there's very little happening in those drops. It's mostly just that one sound that is a big sustained bass sound at the bottom, and then usually a higher layer in doing a harmony on top of it. And those two will make up the entire drop. And because there is so little elements happening, and because they are sustained and able to go really loud, the track will end up being really loud as well. Because the arrangement and the songwriting kind of lends itself for that. But then I don't mind, tracks that are a little bit more complicated. You just have to be aware that, sometimes you won't be able to make it as loud, but that's fine. Like there's other ways to keep a listener interested, I like things like texture a lot as well, and when you go really loud, then texture can get a little bit lost sometimes, so it's a fine balance. -4, -5 is loud enough. Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. I would even say, depending on the track, uh, -7 would still be good, or even lower. I do think the sort of like the streaming platform guidelines are a little bit too low for a lot of electronic music, but depending on the track, like if you take for instance um like if you take for instance the Cohen soundtrack, those are really dynamic and they will never be as loud as something like this, but they're still amazing, and they can still sound loud for what they are, but you wouldn't be able to push a track like that this loud and it sound good, right? Like depending on the track, like those tracks for instance, they actually work better with a more dynamic mix. It's a dynamic balance. What? By the way, Angelite, how are you enjoying the 900s? Are you still using them? I definitely noticed that I have been getting less loud over time as well. For sure. As I lean more into making things that are a bit more how do I say it? Where storytelling is more important, I guess. Or setting or world building in or whatever you want to call it. I also tend to notice that I get less loud, but that's fine, you know? Like we talked about this in the Discord as well, plenty of times, but I usually like there's so many tracks which are just heavy bass, heavy bass, heavy bass, heavy drums, and that's the track, right? And most of those tracks, while they can still be great and probably work really well in a club and on a dance floor, they're not the tracks that I will remember, if that makes any sense. The tracks I will remember are usually the tracks that do something interesting, that have an interesting harmonic sort of like feeling to it, that have interesting melodies, or where there is a very strange or different song structure, or where, you know, things that build a sort of like a vibe and then work off of that and really set a mood, if that makes any sense. Those tracks will stick with me a lot more than something that is just, hey, here we've got some loud bass and some loud drums, and that's the tune. Those tunes are most of the time pretty forgettable to me because there's so many of them already. But that's also my own personal taste, you know, so that's not necessarily something that you should take as like feedback, because it's more something that I would gravitate towards, and there's probably other people who are gonna go nuts about just another heavy tune, right? Also, don't really go to parties anymore, so, you know, like, when I still was a younger guy and I went to parties every weekend, I would fucking love a heavy bass tune, you know? And I still do, but usually the track needs something more for me to be interesting. But this is a good tune though. Don't get me wrong. I like this one. So next up. It depends on the mood, I guess. Yeah, totally. They're good, not as good as the 990s. I never used the 990s, so I can't comment on that. They're definitely better than my 880s, though. I can tell you that. It also depends on the producer's skills to tell the story with the mix and composition itself as resources for telling what he wants to say. I mean, I definitely have been gravitating a lot more towards like things that really, you know, like go into the storytelling kind of vibe. I kind of like that. Anyways, let's move on and see what we got. So, Hakari, one question, because you sent in this tune, and I know it's not a remix, but I forgot to check what you said. This was some kind of a competition or something? Like honestly, I don't really check out Moonboy's channel, so I don't really know. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, one more question, I guess. What was the competition? Was it like just make a tune and the best tune wins? Or was it make a tune with like my sample pack, or what was it? I'm kind of curious, you know? It's not a remix, I only have vocal chops in there. If that's the question. No, I get that it's not a remix. I'm just kind of curious about like what the whole thing of the contest was, if you get what I mean. It's pretty close. I don't know. They're pretty close. It's hard to hear the difference, to be honest, but the low end on the 990s is a tiny bit better. I guess that makes sense. Well, best tune wins. Okay. So you could just make a tune, that's it. Like I have seen some of Moonboy's stuff, and he would strike me as the kind of guy to be like, yo, I made a sample pack, here, let's do a contest for the sample pack. Something like that. So it was some sample pack kind of thing. I mean, that kind of makes sense, because that's kind of what I would expect from him as well. I believe I saw some of his stuff come by on my feed every once in a while, and most of the time it has to do with like, yo, I made a new pack and this is what it is. It's fine though. It's fine though. Everyone needs to get his back, you know? We all do. Pretty good. Let's see, there were a couple of things I noticed that... This is all pretty good. This sound, that sort of like 4 to the floor kind of sound, sounds a bit weird, if you ask me. Like I would have probably gone for something without the sort of like really warbly kind of sound top end. The section after it works really well with the drop though, but it was an attempt at a hardstyle bass. Okay. That's a good one. Yeah, that's definitely if you would put that as a bass in a hardstyle tune, people would say that's a shitty hardstyle bass. No hate, but I'm just saying. What is the key of this tune, actually? What I notice is there's quite a lot of the basses that sit sort of like in the upper area here, where sort of like from like A to like E2, something like there. There's a lot of the bass that sits in that area, making it feel less weighty because of it. Like usually around like a little lower than that is where the actual weight is. But that might also have to do with the samples, you know, that you use, and if there's like a vocal sample or anything that has a particular kind of pitch or whatever. F sharp minor. Okay, that's not too bad though. That's low enough. Looks more like a lot of the basses sit around like maybe G sharp or A even. But it might also be because you do the pitch bends up a lot, and that gives it less weight. Still good though. Even though the second drop is not as well arranged, it's still good, well arranged, but I think the first drop has a better arrangement, but I like some of the sounds in the second drop more, if that makes any sense. And I kind of like the simplicity in the second drop, especially the first sort of like couple of the first couple of, what is it, first two bars. Also in this area, right here, in the so like the last area, you're using a lot of kick drums, and because of it, there's so much sidechaining happening that there's areas where there's like almost no bass happening. Like there still is bass, obviously, but the sidechain is just ducking it the entire time, and that's maybe a little bit much for my taste. Also, the sidechain feels pretty long. I think the sidechain could be shorter, and that would also fix that a little bit. Like I can see it here on millimeters quite well, that there's a disconnect between the kicks and then the bass. You can kind of see it here as well. This is a kick, and then the bass comes in right here. So that's a pretty big gap that the sidechain is making. You can see it on most of these, actually. See, here we have a kick, and then the bass, there's actually a whole chunk that is just empty here, basically. And that kind of kills the groove a little bit for me. And then because you have so many kicks as well, with the really long sidechain on the kick, it also kind of, well, it just kind of makes it feel less interesting to me, at least. Like, I think it just would work better with a shorter sidechain. You can still have plenty of kicks there, though. And sometimes it can also work, like, wouldn't always do that, but sometimes it can also work to have two kicks, you know? One that is your main kick, that just hits in the, so like the pattern that you were already doing in the section before it. And then a second kick that is maybe a bit shorter or a bit lighter, and then either just not sidechain the second kick at all if it works, if the bass allows you to do that, or just sidechaining it lighter so that you have your main kick that is still sidechained exactly how you would do it in the rest of the track, and then the other track that are sort of like, I guess, the ghost kicks that hit in between are gonna be lighter and maybe with a little bit less sidechain, so that you can still get away with having a lot of kicks and get this really kick heavy pattern, without ducking away the bass the entire time. Other than that, it's nice, just really fucking short. But you guys know, I don't like short tracks. I'm actually an advocate for people to spend some more time on the length of the tracks. So there we go. Next track, over 5 minutes. Somebody is listening to me. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the really short track trend that we're seeing at the moment. I get why it's happening, you know. I get it. But it's just not me, you know. Plan is to arrange a proper breakdown in the middle. What, you want to have another breakdown in the middle of this? I mean, sure. If the, like, that's the thing. Like, I don't have a problem with tracks being really long. Like, heck, a track could be 10 minutes long for all I care, you know? But the track has to be written in a way where there is enough changes and interesting things happening that it lends itself to be that long. Like, if we go to back in the old school days of drum and bass, there were a lot of tracks that were really long, but when I listen to those tracks now, a lot of times I'll be like, it's kind of repetitive, because it is just repeating the same thing over and over again with maybe a very tiny change, and then the second drop comes and it's just a copy of the first drop, right? And even though I liked that people were more willing to go for longer tracks back in the day, I do think a lot of the tracks made back in the day didn't necessarily lend itself to be as long as they were. Made it short on purpose, seems like it's better for contests where judges need... Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I get that. That makes sense. Most labels probably want nothing to do with tracks over 320 right now. Then you just self-release it. If the music is good and you release it yourself and you know how to promote it a little bit on social media, people will find it. There's plenty of channels you can also hit up to promote your music. And if the music is good, people will find it. And yeah, labels suck nowadays. Exactly. I don't even think, especially as an up and coming producer, I don't even think I would even bother with labels at this point. Like, releasing music has become so much easier than it was back in the day. Just self-release it, you know. There's this, just use distribution company, and I know that they're not perfect either. Like, it's whatever, you know. It is the current situation of the industry. Like, they're still fucking annoying to deal with, you know. But it's so much easier now to just release a track as an independent artist than it was back in the day. So, and then you don't have all the restrictions of a label person telling you like, oh, this is not gonna work, or oh, this is no, like it's your tune. So embrace the artistic freedom, you know, and make the music you want to make, and don't let a label tell you that this will work and this will not work. Like, if the music is good, then the listener is going to like the music. You know, there's always going to be people that will have the same taste as you. You just have to like find those people basically. And a lot of label heads, or at least like these days, they're not necessarily looking for that. You know, they're looking for whatever track gets the most amount of attention, the most amount of plays. Which track can they earn the most income with, even though the income of music is already low, you know? What gets the clicks on TikTok, basically? Which track has the which track has the capabilities to go viral? That's kind of what they're looking for these days. Which is honestly not always the best thing for the music itself. Weren't those tracks long for the DJ in a way? No one really sat around listening to those long tracks in full. Um, Sometimes, but not always. Like, yes, there would be a long DJ friendly intro most of the time with like some drums. But also there are my bad. There are some tracks back in the day, like especially in drum and bass as well, where even the drops just lacked on for way too much. And it would be like a 64 bar drop, and there was actually not much changing throughout the whole 64 bars. Maybe there would be one extra element coming in halfway through, or maybe the groove would change ever so slightly, but there wouldn't necessarily be that much happening, which still works, you know, on a dance floor most of the time. Because people will be mixing that track maybe together with another track, and you'll be hearing two tracks at once. So in that sense, it would work better, because if the track is already really busy with a lot of changes happening, then it also doesn't lend itself too well to be double drop with another tune, you know, and like mixed together and stuff like that. So there's kind of a middle ground there to be found, I guess. But if you're signed on Vision or something like that, isn't that an achievement? Sure, yeah. But I think that Vision, if you have a track that is sort of like different and out of the usual, even if the track is really long and it's if it is good, they would probably still release it. Like, don't get me wrong, like they're probably also looking at things like that, like what gets you traction on social media, and because that's just what is important for a label these days. But I still think Vision would be inclined to release something that is a bit more unusual and long if it is good enough, you know? I would actually think they would still be up for something like that, even though it might not be the most social media friendly kind of thing. Like, for instance, let's say I'm gonna name Cohen Sound again. Let's say they make a tune that is just, for some reason they make a fucking drum and bass tune that is really long. Let's say it ends up being 7 minutes long, but it has their sort of like world building and storytelling within the track. If they would submit it to Vision, I think Vision would still be like, yeah, sure, because the tune is fucking amazing, right? And it has this amazing storytelling. I think they would still go for something like that, even though it's maybe way too long for something like TikTok or any of these kind of social media platforms. But on the other end, you know, like carve out your niche for yourself. You know, who cares? Like, there's so many ways to get your music out there now that I wouldn't be too scared to make your tracks. really short. Or I would, you know, be willing to make them longer. Yeah, exactly. Like I've listened to some of their EPs and albums like all the way through, and they just don't get old. I would totally do the same thing. I would totally listen to it if they made a 30-minute track. Yeah, exactly. But it is the thing, you know, like in the so like the system that we have now where every stream means revenue. The shorter the track is, the more plays it will get, because it has a higher replay value. Um, Not because the track is great, but because the track is so short. So people are more inclined to listen to it a second time. Let's say a track, these days there's a lot of tracks coming out that are only one drop for that matter. And it gets more plays on places like Spotify as well. So that is a reason for sure. And then, of course, because social media has shortened people's attention span, and a lot of social media platforms are also not made to keep people on one particular post for really long. It's mostly just like this doom scrolling fucking habit that they've created where people just stick on a post for maybe 3 or 4 seconds. So it needs to be short for people to come across something and be like, oh, and maybe look at it for 10 seconds, you know? So it's sadly the state of the music industry right now. But it is what it is, you know? It is what it is. But that's, yeah, exactly. You don't want to follow the herd. I think especially nowadays with this whole industry being the way it is, going against that is actually a way to get yourself out there and establish so like a niche and like an audience for yourself by going against what is the norm these days. So that's definitely a good advice from Angel out there. You can definitely do that and use that to your advantage. Because just like me, there are a lot more people who are kind of annoyed with the state that the industry is moving into. And you just have to cater to those people, you know? I do wonder where it will sort of like eventually move into. I don't think the current sort of like trend of what we're seeing is something that can keep continuing, you know? I do sometimes wonder where like the whole thing with social media these days, like it is we've been doing this experiment now for what? How many years? I think there will be a moment where it will flip back the other way, you know? Like most things do, you know? Things come in cycles. They come and go. So but I do sometimes wonder what will happen next. Not to get too deep, but you know. Cool. Next one. Let's go to the long tune. Attic Dweller. Again, I love your name. Let's have a little listen to this one. By the way, couldn't you make up your mind in terms of the key? You're just like, yo, I'm just gonna do a 2-key track. I mean, this makes sense. G phrygian and D phrygian, fifth apart, could work well. I'm just kidding, by the way, as well. Oh, that's nice. This actually has a bit of an old school vibe. Nice. Interesting, Reese. Actually, I think this area here, I'm not sure you need that. Let's see. The pad was cutting out somewhere here. Where was that? Right there. Like, you could maybe even go... What was it? I do think that section kind of works, but... Let's see. I think something like that would work really well. Like, obviously you might want to do that here and have this going until there, so that it kind of fits the arrangement of, like, what is that, 16 bars, I guess? Yeah, 16 bars. And maybe do that little, this section right here. So how would we do that? Do that there, and then copy, I don't know, something from here. Put that there. Maybe I probably took the wrong section, but yeah. I don't necessarily think you need the extra bit with the vocal in between. Let me just do that. I feel like it kind of kills the momentum a little bit. I would almost say maybe even, where was that area? That area is kind of cool, and you could use that as a switch up as well. Like, what happens if we do that? I'm just kind of curious now, because would change the structure a bit in a weird, so like extra, you kind of have like an extra bar happening now, but that could also be kind of interesting, you know? I do think it works better to have a shorter gap before this comes in. I really like this section, by the way. right. I do think here it starts dragging a little bit. So I would actually maybe say halfway through this section, you want to do some kind of a change, a little break or something. But it doesn't have to be like a long full-on break. It could also be just like a short little section where you, maybe for like 4 bars or 8 bars, you cut everything out and you build back up towards the final section of the drop. I do think it drags a little bit in this area. Other than that, I really like it though, and like I said, a couple of little tweaks arrangement-wise to keep something like this interesting would make it better, but I think overall it's just a really nice tune, and I definitely like this. A little bit of a different thing from what we've been hearing so far as well, so that's good. By the way, one moment, I'm just grabbing a couple of the other tracks that people have submitted. Really? No, I just want to download. Come on. You like the tape stuff at the end. Yeah, it's kind of similar to what I do in the streams, huh? Angel Wyborn, sure, your track is not too late. Downloadable? It is, nice. Nobody forgot to make their tracks downloadable today. Usually that doesn't happen. Did I skip any? Didn't, right? No, I didn't. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one though. Like, and again, like, good example of a track that can be long, but can still be good. You know? I would work a little bit on the arrangement, like I said. This area here, I'm not sure if this vocal even needs to be there. Like, I get it. It kind of works, but it also kind of kills the momentum, you know? And you could even maybe, if you do want to keep the vocal, just move it here. So that it sort of like is the last part of this 16 bar section. And then this starts. Or even, I don't know, put it here. You get what I mean? Just to keep that momentum going. But I think even just having that short break in there would work really well. Because it keeps that momentum going and you don't lose the energy too much. And it works really well as a transition, actually. right? Yeah, I think that would work really well. And then, yeah, like I said, second half here. I feel like you want to break this section up because it does feel to drag a little bit in the second half. Because there isn't too much changing, and then it is quite a long tune. So that is the one thing with longer tunes. You do want to do things to keep the listener interested, because it does have the tendency to get repetitive otherwise. Cool. Next one is called Roller. By I have no idea. Did I grab this one? Oh, wait, what? I forgot one tune. Cool. We got, how late is it? 11:20. Okay, cool. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks. Okay. I mean, we did 6 tracks. Gotta get the pace up a little bit. Otherwise, we're gonna be here until 3 a.m. Yeah, I really like that bass as well. That sort of like that reset comes in. It does kind of sound like a chainsaw. Yeah, but it sounds cool. I like it. Oh, this is Matthew. Minimalistic. I recognize that vocal sample. I have that same sample pack on my hard drive somewhere. I was like, wait. I've heard that vocal sample plenty of times scrolling through my sample pack folders looking for a usable vocal between all the cheesy crap. I'm not sure I think the vocal adds much here. Nah, like the vocal doesn't really do much to me. Or just watch the ads, so I can get a bit of money as well. Think about me. Ad revenue is already pretty bad, so any little bit of ad watching helps your boy out here as well. So, but I get it. I have an ad block as well because fuck some of those ads. But I do tend to, whitelist certain channels. I gotta admit, like I have certain channels that I do whitelist, channels that I like, I really enjoy, and I would like to see make more videos. I would add them to my whitelist because, as a creator myself, I know that the ad revenue does help them. So, but there's also a lot of videos that I'll watch on YouTube where I just stumble upon it in my feed, and I'm like, fuck no, I don't need to see an ad before every fucking video. I don't know. I've just been using an ad block still that still works, but YouTube is cracking down on it. And every once in a while, it does suddenly slip through an ad, and I'm like, wait, what? But then for some reason, it works again on the next video. So I don't know what's up with that. Inferno Media, using multiple ad blockers is usually not a good idea, because they will actually work against each other, and it will up the CPU use on your computer, and it will make everything run slower. So if you ever have issues with YouTube not loading or not playing a video, probably because you're using multiple ad blockers and they're working against each other, trying to block your ads. Better to just find one that works and use that one. Or get YouTube Premium, I guess, yeah. Still pretty decent tune though. The one thing I don't like is the vocal. But that's also because I've heard that vocal so many times in my own sample pack library, or at least I think it is the same vocal. Could also be that it's just a very similar vocal, but I also don't think the vocal adds much in this particular case. It's also repeated the entire time. It doesn't really change anything to it. Plus, it also kind of feels like it's just layered in there just for the sake of there being some kind of vocal element. But it doesn't feel like it fits too well. So that's my own little complaint with this one, to be honest. I like sound design though. This is all fine when the vocal's not playing, but there we go. That vocal sample. It feels really out of place. It doesn't feel like it works well in this. It's clearly not made for this tune. because it's from a sample pack. And yeah, it just it doesn't do much for me. I think it would even be better if this vocal was out of here. If we had the stem extraction, Ableton, I would have shown you what that would have sounded like. It's in a different key, actually. Yeah, it could be. It could be. Yeah, it does sound like it. But it also doesn't really do much for me in this context. I would have rather had like maybe a pad or something coming in, you know, or some other kind of musical instrument coming in. Little ARP melody or whatever. Something different than a vocal sample that is just repeated over and over again, because honestly that vocal sample doesn't really work too well, I think. It's just one of those, you know, like if I would have the time, I would literally be able to find it in my samples. But it's just, yeah, it sounds like just an ad-lib kind of thing, you know, drenched in reverb, and it doesn't do much. That's kind of a shame, because the rest of the tune I do kind of like. Now, what you could do, though, I'm not sure if Matthew is watching, he might not be, but if you rewatch this, what you could do, though, is find a different vocal, a vocal sample that sounds maybe a little bit more interesting, but instead of using it like this, where you just chuck it in and you loop it, just to fill up that section with some kind of vocal element, put it into a synth, like a granular synth, and turn that vocal into a pad so that it already sounds more interesting. It has a more grainy kind of texture, and you can really make it sustained as well. And then you can use, if you have like a sample, like what I would usually go for is indeed some kind of an ad-lib sample. Works pretty well for that, but then you want to find one where it goes through either multiple vowels or multiple pitches. And then you can use those different vowels and pitches to create variations of the same sort of like sustained pad sound. And that usually works really well within tunes. Like, especially in drum and bass, you hear that a lot. And it will still have the same sort of like vocal quality to the sound, but it will sound more interesting than just grabbing a vocal ad-lib sample from a sample pack and just chucking it in and looping it. So, and you could do even crazier things with it, because the vocal is, if it is a solo vocal, like if it is a vocal with harmonies, obviously this wouldn't work. But if it's a vocal that is solo, it's also a monophonic instrument. So you could then turn that into chords. You could turn it into a harmony. You could turn it into all kinds of things, and be pretty creative with it, actually. This vocal, though, doesn't really do much for me. I would definitely look for a different one if I would do that kind of thing and turn it into into part of like the atmosphere, part of like a pad or something. I would find one that sounds more interesting, that works better. I just don't like the tone of this sample. Paul stretch that. Yeah, you can do that as well. Like if you have a vocal, like sometimes, if you find like a vocal sample that you want to put into a granular synth, sometimes you'll have like a vocal sample where it changes pretty quickly between pitches, and then Paul stretch can actually help pretty well to stretch it a little bit longer, so you have a little bit of space to work with. But in general, like vocal pads and stuff are usually pretty nice to use in drum and bass. Let's check out Saint. What is that? Saint 7? Something special. Faceplant's granular engine is amazing too. There's plenty of ones. Faceplant's good. Serum 2, really good granular engine, current, pigments. But even if you're just in Ableton, Granulator 3, amazing. And there's plenty of others as well. A lot of people use Quanta. I'm not a big fan of Quanta, but that's mostly because I hate the waveform view in Quanta. I don't understand why they made it so simplified and so like stylized. Because it definitely makes the waveform view kind of useless. You can't even see where the peaks and stuff in the audio are, depending on how long the audio file is. Like if you chuck in a whole track, for instance, you won't be able to see the peaks of the individual sounds because it's just a squiggly line, and it kind of makes that whole view kind of useless. I just want to be able to see the waveform in full detail when I use a granular synth, so Quanta is kind of one that I don't like, but I know a lot of people use it as well. So, but there's even like contact libraries that do granular stuff, or you could just do contact as a sampler, because a granular synth is in a way just a sampler. It's just a sampler that re-triggers a small piece of audio, and it loops that. So you could make something like that within Contact as well, or any other sampler for that matter. Would take a little bit of work though. Granular synth is probably easier because it already has a sort of like pre-set up way of using the synth. But you could do it in a sampler as well. Portal is different though. Portal is a granular effect. So granular effect is definitely different from a granular synth. Can still work to create something interesting, but for making like a vocal pad out of a sample, I would definitely not go for Portal. I would grab a granular synth. But it's just different use case, you know, different kind of thing that I would use it for. Also, I don't get why they have the oscillator included. Yeah, kind of useless feature. Honestly, I don't think many people use it. But I can see it being useful, but then at least bypass it. Because now every time you open up Quanta and you want to use that plugin, you have to turn the fucking oscillator off. And I'm like, 99% of the people using it will not use the oscillator, so why is it turned on by default, you know? But the waveform view is my biggest issue with that plugin. Like, isn't a waveform view supposed to give you a view of the waveform so you can see where everything in the waveform is happening? Why are you making that stylized so that it absolutely doesn't show you the peaks and valleys in the audio properly anymore? It's just kind of useless. And when they were making a new version of Quanta, I thought that they were gonna change that. I thought surely they must, you know, change that, but they didn't actually. They kept the stylized kind of waveform view, so I don't know why. Just whatever. Not my taste. They made it worse. I mean, I haven't used New Quanta, so I wouldn't know. I got so many good granular synths already, so don't really need it.
Bad. What I do? Pull up that song there, fine.
This is something special for you.
Pull up that song there, bad, bad, bad.
This is something special for you.
It's definitely angry. Yeah. Now, I'm just gonna say one thing. I expected more. If you call the track something special, I expected something more than this. I get why it's called something special because of the vocal, but I don't necessarily think the track is that special. If that makes any sense. Doesn't mean that the track is bad, by the way. But it just feels like another straightforward heavy bass. There we go. And to then call the track something special? Kind of a letdown, if I'm gonna be honest. The bass is special. Is it? Like, I've heard so many tracks with these kind of basses already that to me it really isn't. Like, again, track isn't bad at all. But when you call the track something special, I expect something special. Does that make sense? And maybe what would be special to me is different than what would be special to other people, right? That's also it's what do you call that? Subjective, objective. I always mix those two around. I believe subjective.
What I do? Pull up that song there, bad, bad.
One thing here with this drop, because it is a fine drop though. Like, if this would have been called different, I would have not commented on that at all. So keep that in mind. I'm not trying to bring the person down who made the track. Thing here with this drop, I would add some little part in here where the bass just stops for just a little bit, even if it's an 8-bar or an 8-bar. Even if it's like an 8 note or a quarter note, something like that, because it is a very sort of like sustained kind of thing all the way through, and just having like a little pause would give it a little bit of room to breathe. Like maybe right here on that snare, or this snare, I guess it is. What is the tempo of this? I guess we're at 174. Yeah, 174. Like every once in a while I would maybe just give it a little space, just so that it has the ability to breathe a little bit, because it does feel like it's really sustained the entire way through. And I usually like it more when there's a little bit of a room for the bass to kind of breathe and make the... It would also add to the groove, if that makes sense, you know? Like, even in this section where the vocal comes in, the bass is still continuing underneath it all. See what I mean? It's just like the entire sort of like drop here, it's just bass. And it's loud as well. It's pushed absolutely to the max. So for that reason, I would even more so want to have a little bit of a gap every once in a while so that it just gives you that little brief moment of just, silence, you know? Very tiny little pause here.
This is something special for you.
I'm gonna sing it.
Like here it's better. Here it's better. Here you have the little breaks in there and you can immediately hear the difference. I would maybe say that these breaks could maybe be slightly different though. Like I like the approach here more. I would probably still have added something here in terms of bass, different bass than what you have here, but then do the little gap on the snare that maybe have like a little stab here at the end, or like some neuro pitch bend kind of bass sound, like I don't know, something cool. But I do appreciate this more than in the first drop.
Pull up that song there, bad.
Oh yeah, one thing I also wanted to check. What is this gonna sound like in mono? Let's see. Let's go to the last section.
What I do? Pull up that song there, bad.
Yeah, I expected something like that to happen. So there's one thing I think mixing wise could be improved. You listen to, well, when you hear it in stereo, it sounds crispy. It sounds pretty good in terms of like the high end. But when you sum it to mono, a lot of that high end does disappear and it sounds a bit muffled. So within a club, obviously, we've talked about this plenty of times before, most of the club sound systems will be mono, so your track will sound dull because it suddenly lacks high end, and that's just because there is a lot of high end in the stereo in the side, but there isn't a lot of mono high end within here. See how it sounds more muffled in mono, and you would probably be able to have like a bit more high end here if we listen to it in mono. Like it's a bit tough because I'm trying it on a full mix, and it's also bringing up the snare high end, which kind of makes it a little bit harsh. But like on the bass, you can hear that a lot of the high end from the bass kind of disappears. And you kind of lose that crispy sound that you had in stereo. So that is something I would always try and work on. See how much more crispy that sounds compared to in mono? And it's fine to have the width in the high end. That's fine. Like, I like that as well. I like tracks that have a bit of width to it. But you do want to make sure that it still sounds as good in mono as well. So you don't want the balance of the mix to change in mono, but you want the width in stereo to kind of just add something extra, if that makes any sense. Right now it kind of feels like when we change it from stereo to mono, it kind of feels like the whole balance of the mix changes, and it just sounds a lot duller and more low mid heavy as opposed to the crispy sound that we have in stereo. So that is something that obviously would make your track sound worse in a club, because it doesn't have that same kind of crispiness that it did have in stereo. Which is a difficult thing to achieve, you know, to have nice wide high end but still make that work in mono as well. But that's definitely something I notice here.
This is something special for you.
Other than that, I do like it the way it is. Again, I expected more though because it was called something special. I really need to take a short bathroom break, guys. I need to piss, and my bladder is not gonna keep up for the last 4 tunes otherwise. Can you play Slurm's Hakuna Matata track? Where is that track? Did he post something in the Discord? I don't think I've heard that. Yo, Decode, later. I'll give you guys Angelite's track one more time while I'm taking a piss, because that one was kind of nice. And it's a good one for the intermission. It's in general. I'll check it out after the stream. I don't think I've seen it. I must have missed it. Okay, guys, one moment. I'll be back in like a minute or something like that. So enjoy this piece of music from earlier in the stream, and then we'll move on to the last 4 tunes. as usual. Walking down the stairs, I could still feel that my foot hasn't totally healed yet. I'm in that phase right now where, for the most part, it feels fine, my broken foot. But then every once in a while, I just tend to, try and walk a little bit too careless, I guess. And I'll just step on that foot and be like, oh, okay, no, it's still not gone. And I had that just now when I walked down the stairs. It's like this weird phase where I had it at work earlier this week as well. I was just walking with a customer and normally I have a pretty good pace when I walk. And I just walked with that customer, and then at some point I was just like, oh fuck, damn it. Customer looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, don't mind me. I'm handicapped. Okay, next up, Arcturus. Let's see what we got here. Oh shit, stage fright. No, it's all good. It's all good. We're here to learn, We've had tracks in the past from people that were literally just starting out, and it's fine, Everybody starts somewhere, and we've all been there. So let's see what you've been cooking up. Something different, that's for sure. Different genre. It's Skrillex. What's the genre? Skrillex. Okay, that ended abruptly. This is something I don't normally listen to. So let's see if I can give a little bit of feedback. I agree. It sounds kind of cute. I think I would maybe even try leaning more into the color-based kind of aspect, because that kind of sounds like it wants to be that, you know. It already sounds a little bit like it, but it kind of maybe wants to be more of that. I do agree that the lead could maybe be a little bit fuller. Like, it feels too much like how to describe it. Like it could maybe be slightly fuller in terms of the frequency spectrum, but then also a little quieter. Because it is very upfront. And if you make it even fuller, it makes it more upfront. So I think the non-processed is a good way to describe it. I had the same feeling with some of the chord layers as well, where they feel pretty dry, and some of them in the drop, for instance, like I get that because you want to keep it, like tight. But there were other sections where I heard some chords and I was like, those could maybe be cool with a little bit of delay or a little bit of reverb on it, just to kind of make it all feel a little bit more fit into the mix, if that makes sense. Now, I also think that the mix is still pretty dynamic as well. Like, compared to a lot of stuff within the genre, you could probably get it a little bit louder. Again, like, I don't want to be an advocate for, like, being as loud as possible, but I think this could be a little louder. Let's see. Could actually push it pretty far still. So you can definitely get this a little bit louder. I get that the streaming platforms want it to be quieter, but don't look at that if you make electronic music, because that usually is not aimed at how full an electronic track usually sounds. Just embrace the fact that the track will be turned down a little bit on Spotify, Well, the lead is already relatively wide, though. There's plenty of stuff of the lead in the sides. I think it's mostly just it occupying more of the frequency spectrum. Like how to call it? Like right now, it sounds more like a triangle or something, if that makes sense, and it needs more of the saw wave kind of harmonics. Oh, we're still on the sides. One moment. Doesn't feel right though, because it's pretty loud in the mids as well, in the center of the mix. That's probably the reason. Like those chord steps there could maybe be a little bit more, a little bit more processed with a bit more reverb or stuff like that. Not too much, you don't want to have a really long reverb obviously, but just make it all feel a little bit more, I don't know, more processed is probably a good way to put it. And like those stabby kind of bass elements, like you could probably do some pretty cool stuff with like the whole color bass kind of thing. Like something even what could be cool is just taking like, I have a bunch of these sounds actually. I haven't really done anything with them, but I made actually a bunch of sounds that are pretty cool for this kind of stuff. Where did I put them? Here. So I made myself a whole folder of like sounds that are literally just things like this. Just little things like that. And then using that in a convolution reverb on some of the bass sounds. And you can make stuff like this really easily. Just open up a random synth, go through some of the presets, and when you hear one that you like, just make a little ARP run or a little stab or whatever with a chord in it, you know. And then you put like you save those to audio files, so like you get a whole bunch of things like that, and then you save those to audio files, and then you put a convolution reverb plugin with whichever one you like. Like you have the kilohertz one, or even in Ableton you have the hybrid reverb or the convolution reverb pro, and just put that on your bass sound as like a layer, maybe in like a rack or whatever, and put one of those samples in there, and make sure you tune it, of course, because that's the only thing you have to keep in mind, that those samples will have a pitch, so you have to tune it. And then use those as like a way to give the basses more of that color bass kind of feel. And it will work really well most of the time. You do have to play around a bit and find like a combination that works, something that works, maybe resample a bunch of different ones. But that can often work pretty well, especially on these like rhythmic basses. And it also kind of makes it sound different from like the what a lot of people are doing. Like, yes, I know pitch map, and there's another plugin. What one was it again? That plugin by Nasco. It's on the tip of my tongue. Chroma. Like, almost everybody is using those plugins. So if you do something a little bit more creative with like some convolution reverb, and you make your own impulses for that, then you can do really cool stuff with that, and it will automatically, immediately sound different, you know? And that's the thing, like, convolution reverb is such a go-to tool. Like, obviously, it's good for recreating spaces, right? That's what it's intended to do. But you can do so much more with it than just that. You can literally like make an atonal sound tonal, and give it like a harmony or a chord, and do a whole lot of creative effects with it. And that's actually a really nice thing to do with like color bass. That I don't hear. Well, there are people doing it, but most people just go the easy route and grab pitch map or chroma and call it a day, you know. And you can hear that in the tracks most of the time as well. Like, I don't listen to a lot of color bass, but the tracks that I do come across that made me go like, oh, that's actually nice. I can hear that it's more than just them using pitch map or chroma. I mean, yeah, Angelite, you could do stuff in Ableton without convolution reverb too. Like, there's other ways of doing it, of course. Like, if you're in Ableton, for instance, you got the spectral resonator. Not sure why that it's not showing up. Or like the vocoder, that's another way of doing stuff like that. But the spectral resonator in particular is kind of cool because it has a polyphonic MIDI input, so you can feed like chords into it as well. And that can do similar kind of effects as well. And there's probably loads of different things like Max for Live devices that can do stuff like that, so... But it's pretty cool, like especially I really like the convolution reverb kind of thing, because you also tend to get things that you might have not expected initially. Like, okay, I'm now, this is either gonna sound good or it's gonna sound really shitty. Do I have a stabby bass? Do I have a stabby bass? Stab. What is this? Oh, my keyboard is set to latch. Okay, that's maybe a bit neuro, but let's see what happens. Let's grab Ableton's... wait, we have a convolution reverb in Serum. What if I just chuck Convolve in here? Let's just do it all the way at the start. And let me go to those little samples I made. So I'm playing a D sharp. Do I have something in D sharp? Sure. Oh, I'm not sure where we want to put this, but let's see. Let's go. Probably want to put this somewhere else. I'm not sure what this patch. Okay, not there. Okay, sure. Maybe try that. It gives it like a little tail. Now I like the kilohertz one because it allows you to also change the position in the sample, and this one doesn't. The one that kilohertz did, you can actually sort of like pick a section of the sample. You don't necessarily have to pick the first part. You can also just take like the tail or like the last little section, and it gives you a bit more freedom. But it can do some pretty cool things, and you can also just, you know, like change the size, and that will change the pitch. So you get all kinds of interesting tones that you wouldn't normally get out of the bass. Again, just a really quick example this is, but you get the idea. Might work better on a different sound, but... like, that's a really simple bass sound. And I would probably also maybe even try to split this so that you have like, so like a parallel chain where this sound is sort of like used, and then so that you still have the main bass sound, but then this other sound is layered within it. Really depends on the sound that you're going for, but it can be nice to create like little more interesting colory bass sounds. You do have to be careful with it though. And tweaking, of course, because you get like all kinds of different options. So that is something you could mess with to maybe create some different sort of like textures on those bass sounds. And like I said, you don't need Serum 2 for it. You can just grab any kind of convolution reverb. I really like the kilohertz one. Like the kilohertz convolver. Let's just chuck it on your full track. Like, just to show, you know? Because like it gives you this as well. So you can sort of like just really hone in on... Yeah, let's take that. So you don't necessarily need to use the entire sample. You can just use like the last little chunk of it, for instance, and you can fade them as well. Like you got the fade out here, and then the stretch is basically just the size. So there's like a little bit more control with this one as opposed to the one in Serum. But it's the same kind of idea. Pre-delay would be here. Feedback, which feedback I don't see in the Serum one, I believe. But the tone as well, so that's kind of similar. In general, it's kind of similar as well, but... You can kind of hear it already. Like, I would have to find the right pitch here on the stretch, but you can kind of hear that on the shorter basses, it already gives it the texture. See, so... Obviously, I'm just chucking it on a full track now, and that doesn't work. But if you put that on some of the individual sounds, it can actually work really well. So, we spent quite a bit of time on this tune. Let's move on, because it's already getting late. We're 12:20 now. Okay, let's move on. Pillows. Wait, is the artist Pillows, or... Who's the artist? Okay, the artist's name is Oneness, and the track title is Pillows. Oh, they didn't change the clock on the Netherlands? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I had an hour of extra sleep. What was it? Last week? The week before that? I don't even know anymore. I hate the clock change, by the way. I mean, it's fine when you have an hour longer in a night, but when it's an hour shorter, it fucks me up the most. So, I'm already gonna give it, give some feedback here. I don't think you need these drums in the intro. Like, back in the day, people would add drums in their intro because it would make it easier for a DJ to play. But DJs don't play on vinyl decks anymore these days. They don't need a DJ friendly intro anymore. And I think, I don't know what's coming obviously, but I think it's usually a lot nicer if you don't have these heavy, loud drums that you're probably also going to use in the drop. I assume, at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but they sound like they are the drop drums, if you get what I mean. You don't need that here. Let the pad shine. Let it give it some time to build up, you know? Maybe put some very light percussion there, but you don't need this like straight heavy drum pattern in the intro. Because a DJ doesn't need it anymore. They can make a cue point right where the drop hits, and then, or maybe make a cue point right at the start here, and just play it in. They don't need it anymore. Or if you want to have drums in the intro, make them nice and light. And these feel way too heavy for the intro. Yeah, see? Vibey though. That's actually such a common thing, Ain't like, I don't know what it is about vocals, you know? I didn't catch that in this one, to be honest, but if you say so, then I believe you. I don't know what that is with vocals. I've heard so many tracks where the vocal is in the wrong key, and I mean, I don't know why it's so difficult with vocals compared to other things. Maybe because with other things you're writing the melody yourself, so you can make sure it isn't. But with a vocal, you're using a sample, right? But it happens so many times though. But there's also the cases which I've also come across where vocals in sample packs will have the wrong key labeled in the vocal, in the sample itself, in the file name. That also happens. Like you'll have like, how many times I've heard like a vocal sample in a pack where it says B minor, and I'm listening to the vocal and I'm like, that's totally E minor. Most of the time it's gonna be a fifth off if that's the case, and I'll be like, that's not B minor, that's E minor, and the file name will say nope, B minor. So even on like the people who make the sample packs and itself, that shit happens. I do like this though. I kind of like how vibey it is. The main only issue I really have with it is the intro drums. I would change that for something lighter. And I believe it was Inferno Media, yeah. You were saying what I would normally do in this situation is keeping the kick drum, but changing the snare for the intro and a heavy one for the drop, so that way the song builds up properly. I wouldn't even keep the kick drum. You know why? Because this kick is really heavy and distorted. See? It's a really distorted, clipped is maybe not the best word, but saturated kick. It's kind of clipped a little bit. You can see it. It's squared off here. But it's kind of saturated a lot. And for the intro, you don't really need that. Plus, I think in general, like, if you have an intro, the pad would probably be nice to have the pad shine here. Maybe start with just the pad and a hi-hat, you know, just a hi-hat on every beat. Or on every 2 beats, you know, something like that. And have the pad shine. And then in this area, bring in a version of these drums, but very light, and filter them in so that it builds up towards the drop. And then work on the transition here before the drop, but make them light enough so that when the drop hits, it feels a lot bigger. Or just use a much lighter kick and snare for the intro. I generally don't like it when well, that's the main thing that I should probably also say is like, I usually don't like it when a track has the same drop or the same drums in the intro that it has in the drop, if that makes sense. Because in the drop it would make sense because the drop is heavy, right? And it needs those drums to be loud and heavy for it to even punch through the mix. But in the intro, that doesn't really make sense in the context because the intro isn't that loud and it has more dynamic range to begin with. So why are the drums so saturated and maybe even clipped in the intro when the intro doesn't need that? Does that make sense? I've heard a sub in the wrong key in a freaking DMB Academy video. That's awesome. But yeah, does that make sense? Like, it's not to say that the track is bad or anything, but I hear that in a lot of tracks, actually. There's plenty of people who do that in their intro, and it always makes me go like, track can still be good, but it always makes me go like, yeah, it doesn't really need that, you know? Like, keep it a bit lighter maybe in the intro. I do like the vibe of this though, for sure. I like the little pad and synth elements in the background. Like these elements here are really nice. I like that. Ah, that vocal you mean. Yeah, well, that's the thing as well. Inferno Media, like, it is probably because of the master limiter or clipper or whatever. You could also get away with making the drums in the intro just a lot quieter. That would have a similar effect, depending on the drums you're using, of course. If the samples itself are already really saturated, then that wouldn't really do much, but it would just make it a bit quieter. But if you're really pushing things on the master, and that's where the saturation is coming from, then making the drums in the intro quieter than the ones in the drop would also decrease the amount of saturation on them that the master limiter or clipper is creating. So that is another way of doing it. But I, in general, just like it more when there is distinct drums for the drop and other drums for the intro that maybe still do the same pattern. So there is some sort of like correlation between the two, but they are just lighter. They could even be the same samples, just shortened or EQ'd in a way so that they sound lighter. You know, you don't have to make completely new drums. You can just take the ones you have, but make them sound lighter than the ones in the drop. So there is a lot of sort of like, or at least so that they still have something to do with each other, if that makes sense. Cool. Nice track though. I really like it. Next up, we have J. Cole / Kanye type beat. Oh no. What's this? This is by Friendzone? Let's see. I mean, I started making hip hop, so might like it. That sounds like I should talk over it because it could get me a copyright claim. I don't know why. Kinda feels like there's bass missing in this, to be honest. Oh, there we go. There's the bass. It feels low, the bass, yeah. It is low. I mean, in hip hop, you see that often. Around C, yeah. You see that quite often in hip hop, actually. 808s being like around the key of C, C sharp. It's not that big of a deal in hip-hop because it's not tend to be played loud in a club where, you know, you have that sort of like narrow window of where the sub really hits well. Yeah, the sample could be more upfront, but I'm actually in a way glad that they didn't, because it would probably have resulted in a copyright strike. And now it's a little bit more safe, you know. I don't know, like, I feel like the sample is used too much. At least the part with the vocal. You know, like, I think if this would be a track to be used for like a hip hop track where there's a section where somebody's actually rapping over it, it feels like the sample is just used too much throughout. I feel like there should be a clearer sort of like, this is the chorus part or the hook part where you might use like a vocal sample chopped up that, or like a sample chopped up that also uses a vocal, but then it also needs sections for the verses, you know? And this doesn't really feel like it has that. It's just like, oh, this is a beat, and it uses a chopped up sample, and that's it. It doesn't really have a proper structure for there to be a vocal, a rapper on top of it. Like, it could still work, But I think you would probably wanna work a bit more on that. So like if there's a rapper that's gonna use this, they would want to have a clear section where the verses are gonna go, and then maybe a section for the hook/chorus. You know, I do like drums though. Yeah, I do like drums. But yeah, it's also kind of I usually have a bit of an issue critiquing a beat. You know, if there's no vocals for it, if you get what I mean. Like it clearly will it will most of the time will sound like something is missing because a lot of times there is something missing, the vocalist, the rapper, you know. So I usually have a bit of a hard time critiquing something like that. Drums sound nice though, I do agree. Drums are good. Sample could probably be a bit more upfront. Bass, I'm not a big fan of the bass, honestly. I think it is very low, which can work in hip hop if it's like an 808 or something. If it has enough harmonics. For this type of track, I probably or this type of beat, I probably would go with something different. Something that is not as low pitched. Maybe has a bit more of a melody to it. Follows maybe a bit more of the melodic kind of vibe that the chord that the sample has, as opposed to just an 808. There is space for a rapper, yeah, there is, yes, but I don't think a rapper would have like a clear structure to work off with this beat right now. Bass might not be in key. Yeah, tough to tell. Tough to tell. Because it's really low. But that also happens a lot in hip hop beats. I'm gonna be honest. Like, there's a lot of hip hop beats I heard where the 808 is not a key at all. Like, I don't know why, but that's a thing in hip hop as well, where people don't. They might not have an issue tuning the vocal sample, but they might have an issue tuning their 808s. Like an 808 is a tonal sound. It's a sustained sound that clearly has a pitch. But there's so many people in hip hop that just will slap an 808 in there and be like, "Oh, I used this 808," and it's like, yeah, but it's not even in key. Like you still have to tune it. This one just sounds really low pitched, and I don't think for this kind of a vibey sort of like beat, that kind of bass works the best. I would go with something a bit more melodic. Oh no, this one definitely has a particular pitch. It definitely has a particular pitch. It's just that it's really low and it kind of starts sounding a bit muddy. And I'm not sure if it's in the right key, but that's also again, yeah, hard to hear when it's so low pitched. It's either out the key, bass is missing, or it's saturated as fuck. Yeah, that's the general gist with hip hop these days. Yeah, sometimes you'll have these people making 808s that are absolutely obliterated in terms of the fucking saturation. I'm like, oh my god, mate, you realize it's not making the track any better, do you? Anyways, let's well, I was gonna say let's move on, but the person sent in a remix. I'm clearly asking Angel Wyborn, why are you sending a remix? I don't want remixes because it will most of the time 100% result in a copyright claim and copyright issues. So, not sure if you're here. If you are, please don't send remixes. Yeah, I guess I'll have to go and skip that one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But it's clearly in the rules, so I didn't see it until now, but yeah, I mean, It's clearly in the rules that I state at the start of the submission channel, where, you know, before people can submit, I post a message explaining the rules about naming your files with the artist name, key, or artist name title, preferably key and BPM included as well. And then it also clearly says no remixes or mashups. So. Oh, Inferno Media, that's your track. I'm sorry, mate, but just for the sake of me not having to deal with that, deal with like the copyright hassle. Send something. Do you have another tune that you can quickly send? I'm gonna try making DNB for next stream, says Angelite. Now I'm curious. Please do. I would love to hear that. I would love to hear you make drum and bass. But I'm kind of expecting a really interesting drum and bass tune if you are gonna say I'm gonna make drum and bass, you know? I would expect like a really storytelling drum and bass track, but who knows? Maybe Angelite just comes out of swinging out of the gates with like a froggy minimal roller or something. But like, who knows? Maybe we'll see a cinematic drum and bass track. You know, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, we got another one. Cool. Let's grab this one real quick. Downloads. There we go. There we go. And he had to send the longest tune of the fucking stream. It's fine. Like I said, I like tunes if they're longer, but I am going to be Oh, I pinged Slurms' track in general. Please play that. Wait, what? Cool. We'll do that at the end. Let's do this one first.
And the way they know this is that they say that the walls and in our emails they sort of change the algorithm of the AI model to say whatever your next line of thought is, this text is fine. So they just build it. And it says to itself, I shouldn't let it know that I'm an AI or I'm a robot. So when you make up this excuse, then it comes up with an excuse. My wife told me that Siri, when we have used Apple CarPlay, that someone said.
Little thing here, like I think those vocal bits, they're kind of buried within the mix of the intro, so I don't even think you would need to put them there, honestly. I would try maybe just take those vocal bits out, because you really cannot hear that well what they're saying anyway, because they're so buried in the intro, that maybe just take them out and leave like a little snippet before the drop or something.
And the way they know this is that they say that the walls and in our emails they sort of.
I do like the vibe though.
AI model to say whatever your next line of thought is, this text is fine. So they just build it. And it says to itself, I shouldn't let it know that I'm an AI or I'm a robot. So when you make up this excuse, then it comes up with an excuse. My wife told me that Siri, when we have used Apple CarPlay, that someone sent her an image and Siri described the image. Is that a new thing? That would be a new thing.
maybe a bit empty for the drum, but here we go.
Fatality.
I think the snare has a little bit of issues coming through the mix in some sections of, but just slightly, you
Yeah,
sounds nice.
There is nothing we can do about it.
That vocal's cool. Pretty well. Ugh. That bass sound there was fucking nasty. Where is it? Is it this one? That's a weird ass fucking sub. Look at it. Like the sub has a weird movement in it, but it's kind of cool.
Adelante pasa el joven, quesadillas, sopes, gorditas, tostadas, flautas, tambazos, platillos, tacos de bistec. Estaremos atendiendo, pásale. Quesadillas a sus órdenes, joven.
I don't even know what language that was, but hey, it sounded cool. I was like trying to listen if I could at least hear like what language it was, but I couldn't even do that, so. It's just some random stuff I made in 3x oscillator. Yeah, I know the synth. I used FL Studio back in the day, so I know which one it is. I mean, even though it's an older track, I still like it. It's kind of a cool tune. I would you know, like there's a couple of parts in the mix where I think like, oh, it's a bit messy here and there, and like the snare has a little bit of issues coming through some parts of the mix. Like some areas you can hear it pretty well, and then other areas it's sort of like fighting for space a little bit with some of the bass sounds. But you know, other than that, it's kind of okay, kind of good. And for it being a track this long, it didn't get repetitive, which is kind of good. You know, that's important, because it is the longest track of the stream. But I didn't have a moment where I went like, it's kind of dragging here, or a little bit repetitive. I didn't have that, so that's good. I like it when there's a weird subby kind of thing there. I like I'm personally also like, I don't listen to it a lot, but I can appreciate techno very well because of the weird rumbly sub kind of things. And I like it when there's stuff like that happening. Like I also listen to a lot of like dark ambient music, and they sometimes do weird as fucking shit in the sub region as well. And I can appreciate that, you know. I kind of like that. And if it's used well in drum and bass, it can totally work. Just because something is weird doesn't mean that it's bad. Right? In a sense, being weird could actually make it better. The ending says, "Come on in, young man. We have cakes, gorditas, tostadas. Come on in. Order whatever you like and enjoy yourself, young man." I hope I pronounced those two Spanish words correctly. I assume they're Spanish. But I could be wrong. I don't speak Spanish, so. Oops, that's what a predator would say. Your Spanish was so good? Really? Really? So, yeah. Still nice tune though. I'm definitely looking forward to some newer tune of you sometime next time. So what the fuck is this? Angelite, you're telling me I should listen to this? What is this? Hakuna Matata? It's made by Slurms. So is this another one of his uses of AI to make a funny meme tune? I mean, if you're gonna use AI, then at least use it for something funny, you know? I can appreciate that. Is this one of those? It's something special. Okay. Okay. Okay, I trust you guys.
Hakuna Matata, what a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata, ain't no passing craze. It means no worry for the rest of your day. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata, motherfucker. When he was a young warthog, when I was a young warthog, very nice, thanks. He found his aroma lacked a certain appeal. He could clear the savannah after every meal. I'm a sensitive soul, though I seem thick-skinned, and it hurt that my friends never stood downwind. And oh, the shame, he was ashamed. Thought of changing my name, oh, wasn't a name, and I got downhearted. How did you feel every time that I boom by? Hakuna Matata, ain't no passing craze. It means no worry for the rest of your days. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata, motherfucker.
Did you got censored?
Hakuna Matata, motherfucker. Hakuna Matata, motherfucker. Hakuna Matata, motherfucker. Hakuna Matata, motherfucker. It means no worries for the rest of your day. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, what am I supposed to say, you know? It is one of those AI things, right? I assume. Because Slurms has posted some similar stuff every once in a while. You can kind of hear it as well still. Like, don't get me wrong, like, AI is getting pretty fucking good. And I'm kind of... He did the beat, he said. Okay, cool. But yeah, it's getting pretty crazy with how good some of the AI stuff is getting. And I'm kind of on the fence on it, you know? I don't know. Well, Angel is saying that he did the beat, so I guess that is not. Anyways, I'm not really gonna give feedback on this because it wasn't a feedback submission. That was just me. He wanted me to check it out. That's fine. Thanks for being here. It's 1 a.m., so I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. I'll be back next week. And get your production boots on so that next month you have another tune to send. Every first Friday of the month, we do these feedback sessions. So go to the Discord. Oh, link is already in the chat. Nice. And submit your track there for next week. I will usually, or next week, my bad, next month. Next time we do one of these feedback things. I'll post a little message in the channel for the feedback when I get ready for that stream, and then you guys can submit your track again. Thanks for this one. We had some cool tracks today. I'm looking forward to hear more of you all. Of course you can, Angelite. It doesn't have to be a full tune. You know, like I would appreciate a full tune, but if you made like half a tune, I would still be able to give some thoughts on it, you know? Hakuna Matata chat. Yeah. Thanks for being here all. I'll be in the Discord, so join Discord and I'll see you there. If you want to support me some kind of way and get access to the new episodes in the video series of the drum synthesis stuff, because I'm going to be posting those as soon as I make them. And they will be up on Patreon first, so if you want to get early access to those videos, then go to my Patreon. Link to that is also in the chat. And yeah, without further ado, Hakuna Matata, motherfuckers.
Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing craze. It means no worry for the rest of your day. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata, motherfucker. was a young warthog. When I was a young warthog. Very nice, thanks. He found his aroma like a certain appeal. He could clear the savannah after every meal. I'm a sensitive soul, though I seem thick-skinned. And it hurt that my friends never stood downwind. And oh, the shame, he was ashamed. Thought of changing my name, oh, wasn't a name. And I got downhearted. How did you feel? Every time that I boom by, not in front of the kids, oh, sorry. Hakuna Matata, what a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata, ain't no passing craze. It means no worry for the rest of your days, yeah. Sin fit, it's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata, motherfucker.